Raja Ravi Varma was one of the most iconic artists of the country. He's also one of the most loved and the most hated artists in the country. His paintings of gods and goddesses like Lakshmi and Saraswati have captured the visual imagination of this country for over a century. His portraits of royalty and the rich are one of the most sought after works of art. And the expert on Raja Ravi Varma is leading art restorer Rupika Chawla. You're watching Art Talk. I'm Jujhar Singh. Rupika, it's excellent to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
Now, Raja Ravi Varma broadly did two kinds of works. One, gods, goddesses and works from scriptural stories. And number two, portraits of the rich and royalty. When is it that you became personally fascinated by his works?
Well, it happens gradually. I was fascinated, and then in the early 90s, I remember I discussed Ravi Varma's works with A. Ramachandran, the painter, who also is from Kerala, who lives in Delhi, and we discovered we had a mutual fascination. So we did an exhibition of his works at the National Museum in 1993, where we brought a lot of the works, of course, permission.
And that exhibition really revived the interest in Ravi Varma as well.
Absolutely, it did, because until then he had been kind of quite forgotten. And his works.
And his prices.
Yes, they went up slowly, because before the exhibition in 1993, let's say if, I'm just giving you a kind of a vague figure, if a painting was worth 50,000, after the exhibition, it became 5 lakhs, and then it went up gradually over the years, and now it's...
in crores.
Yes, absolutely.
Raja Ravi Varma lived from 1848 to 1906. He painted for 36 years, produced 2,000 works of art. Now that works out to be roughly one a week. How come he was so prolific?
Well, there were various reasons for this. One of them being that he was helped by his brother, Raja Varma.
Helped in what way? In painting parts of the painting?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Parts of the. So we have to acknowledge Raja Varma's presence in a fair amount of paintings that Ravi Varma did, though Ravi Varma was the one who had the vision, who conceived how it was to be done, and Raja Varma did the rest of it.
Rupika, let's have a look at Raja Ravi Varma works now. He was the first Indian artist to actually paint gods and goddesses realistically. How revolutionary was this at the time?
Even now, it's quite something. He almost gave a sense of gods and goddesses being living, breathing people.
Because before Raja Ravi Varma, Indian art was mainly what? Suggestive, abstract. It was Western art that was more realistic. So Ravi Varma actually borrowed a technique from Western art and painted his gods and goddesses.
Certainly, academic realism helped him a lot. And also he brought the goddesses and the gods into a human, gave them a human face, a more really living with the people kind of sense.
How were they represented earlier?
In a more iconic way, certainly. They were not realistically done earlier. They were aloof, they were at a distance, but he's brought them right into the... And also, as I said, the details, the kind of clothes, jewelry. For example, Saraswati, again. Saraswati, her jewelry is always inside her sari, because that is the discreet way a woman is meant to wear her jewelry, not show it in an ostentatious way, but quiet. So there were women who would see that and say, that's the way a genteel woman has to be, wear her jewelry the way Saraswati does. So there were all those little things.
Rupika, Raja Ravi Varma was also the first Indian painter who mastered oil painting. I believe we were doing mainly water-based painting before that. How much did this help him also achieve the realism in his paintings?
Certainly, now if you're talking about the technicalities of oil paintings, you see oil paint doesn't dry fast. Watercolors, since they're water-based, they will dry pretty quickly, especially in our kind of climate. Oil paints take their time to dry, so you can move oil paints around, So he was able to, and that is why, especially his flesh, the skin of the women, the drapery, the jewelry. He was able to work on it at leisure because he had oil paints to help him along.
Well, Ravi Varma, apart from painting gods and goddesses, also painted portraits of the rich and royalty. Who were his most important patrons?
A lot of the royal families. You had Baroda, Mysore, there was Udaipur, there was Pudukkottai, there were several, and of course Travancore. So there were, and also lesser royal states all over the country.
He must have been a good networker.
He was a very good networker, and he was very conscious of working the system. He was very conscious of working with people who were his patrons, asking them to push him forward.
He himself came from an aristocratic family in Kerala. How much did that help in the networking?
It did help because he spent a lot of time in the Travancore court, where he became friendly with, let's say, one of the most important figures of that time in India, Sir T. Madhav Rao, and another Diwan of Pudukkottai, Shishaya Shastri, and both these people introduced him further into different patrons of the country.
But Rupika, I want to ask you, why is he called Raja Ravi Varma? Because I believe that he was married to the Maharaja of Travancore's sister, but he himself wasn't really royalty.
No, he was from the aristocracy, but you know, this is a very complex system.
But he wasn't really a Raja, right?
No, he wasn't. It was more a title given to him because of his status as one of the most important and well-known artists of the country.
Rupika, let's now look at some of the details of Raja Ravi Varma's paintings. Let's, for example, look at his iconic Lakshmi and Saraswati paintings. Now look at the saris. Which region of the country are they from?
When he was painting Lakshmi, and he was making that for Baroda, and that was a very important commission for him, and you know, you have to see the period when there is already the stirrings of nationalism in the country. And he therefore cannot afford.
This is the late 19th century.
Yes, and he did not wish to put Lakshmi into a regional sari, because that would then give her a limited sphere of...
So what is Lakshmi wearing?
So that that time, the very beginnings of, there were several women trying out the kind of sari which is worn today. And he was probably the first ever to put on Lakshmi the very modern sari, which did not belong to a particular region, but eventually came to belong to the entire country. And that is another reason why Lakshmi is standing. Normally, Lakshmi is seated Lakshmi. Ravi Varma's Lakshmi is a standing Lakshmi, so that the entire sari...
So you could show the sari. So Lakshmi and Saraswati are worshipped all around the country, so he gave them a pan-Indian look.
Absolutely. In the modern sari, the completely pan-Indian sari, yes.
But in the 1890s, when he painted these paintings, you know, this must have been a very clever and a very patriotic idea.
Patriotic, I don't know how clever, but maybe clever, knowing that he was very aware of the pulse of the country, the pulse of who his patrons were and what he was doing, yes.
And it's obvious when one looks at his saris, he loved painting saris. Look at the folds, look at the details.
Yes, well, he loved painting whatever he was painting, so whether it was the sense of the silk or the you know, the satin, the velvet, whatever he might do, even the jewelry that he made was quite amazing.
Exquisite. How much is it that his aristocratic background helped him to understand how to paint fine, exquisite jewelry?
Yes, he himself would have had a fair amount of jewelry, because when he went to Hyderabad, for example, there is evidence that he bought jewelry there. I mean, one has documentation of that. So, and in his own state, he would have had his jewelry. He saw jewelry all over. He saw palace architecture all over. He saw, you know, a lot of things. He was in courts and royal palaces all the time.
But you know, looking at some of the jewelry he's painted,
Yes.
it looks so fantastic, so exquisite, almost like, you know, you'd want to own one of those pieces.
Exactly. Unfortunately, God knows where that jewelry is now. Maybe broken up in little bits, I don't know.
Now, Rupika, Raja Ravi Varma is also a passionate painter of feminine beauty. Let's look at one of his very well-known works, Shakuntala removing a thorn from her foot. Why don't you describe that work for us, please?
This is meant to be at that precise moment when she's walking in the forest, and immediately from the other side is the very handsome King Dushyant, who has emerged into the clearing, and they see each other. There is love at first sight, and since he's the king, he can't hang around and gape at her, so he moves out. But she wants to have a last look at him, so she pretends there's a thorn in her foot. So she tells her friends, please, please wait, there's a thorn, my clothes have got caught in the brambles. So that's really the excuse for her to look back at
her lover. Another famous painting of his is Damayanti and Hansam. What is the story over there?
Well, that's a very, it's a story which has always caught the fancy of whether it is oral tradition, whether it is written tradition. The whole idea of the Hansam coming to Damayanti and talking about Nala and saying
her
lover, and saying that he's a wonderful looking man, he's great, he's got all the virtues. So she falls in love with Nala without having seen him. So this famous painting of the swan taking off to talk to Nala and say the same thing about Damayanti is something which has caught the romantic fancy of the entire country.
Raja Ravi Varma was also excellent in capturing expressions and emotions of his subjects. Now, one very good example is the painting Krishna as an envoy of the Pandavas to Duryodhana. Why don't you take us to that painting?
Well, this painting is absolutely fraught with drama. The central figure is Krishna, who's seated, looking very calm. After all, is Krishna, and he knows what what is happening all around him, but he's completely calm. The Kauravas are getting angry, and they are threatening to tie him up with rope, and so his companion Satyaki is trying to sort of take out his sword and he doesn't. Krishna doesn't even have to look back. He's just taken his arm back and he's restraining Satyaki and saying, "Calm. There's no need for you to get excited." So there is this whole lot of drama, emotion, anger, fear, which is being enacted by the Kauravas.
And what is incredible is that Ravi Varma has painted so many different figures over there, and all of them have different expressions.
And to do this, his great love for theatre, which he would see everywhere he went, that helped him to work on the gestures, the body language, the emotions of every person in a particular.
So he read a lot, he saw a lot of plays, musicals, enactments. That's how he got his emotional content right.
Yes, he was a serious type of a man.
The other thing is that Raja Ravi Varma also appears to be very good in choosing the most dramatic scenes from a scriptural story to depict in a painting. Now, one very good example is Ravan carrying off Sita. And, you know, when one looks at it, you know, one can almost feel the way Ravan is slicing off the wing of Jatayu. It's a wonderful painting.
Yes. Well, you see, this is what an artist is meant to do, understand which is a particular moment in a story which is going to have maximum impact on the viewer.
Rupika, Raja Ravi Varma was probably the most sought-after artist of his time. In 1894, he started the Ravi Varma Fine Arts Lithographic Press to make prints of his painting. What was he thinking over there?
Well, you know, he realized that no matter how much he painted, he could not paint for everybody. Also, he knew his paintings were expensive, and he wanted other people who could not afford his paintings to have his paintings. So he realized that to make oleographs or chromolithographs of his works was perhaps the best solution. It would cover everything. They would be inexpensive. They would reach everyone in the country. And
he particularly wanted to do that with his gods and goddesses and religious paintings, because that's what people would be interested in.
And he would also see which were the paintings that would have most appeal. For example, the Maharaja of Mysore or the Nizam of Hyderabad.
For their subjects.
For their subjects.
And his oleographs sold like wildfire. I mean, even till today we know about Ravi Varma oleographs.
Absolutely, which is why people think there are many people till now who didn't even know he made paintings. They thought he was just calendar artist because of his oleographs.
But the result of this is that, our visualization of our gods and goddesses, particularly Lakshmi and Saraswati, is as per Ravi Varma's oleographs.
Correct, absolutely, as per the oleographs, yes.
Now what's interesting is that these oleographs have adorned puja rooms, but they've also, been on posters, ads, matchboxes as well.
Quite right. Because, yes, everyone took over from there was different parts of the country where there was a huge amassment of the oleographs, and naturally, from one thing, it led to another.
I believe that Raja Ravi Varma works have also influenced many filmmakers like Dada Saheb Phalke, Raj Kapoor, Ismail Merchant.
Yes.
How did he influence these people?
Well, Phalke, for one, worked in his press for a while. So he had an idea of how it was all done. And naturally, the influence went into Phalke's works when he first Raja Harish Chandra. And Raj Kapoor was a different matter because he picked on what was possible for Ravi Varma to do in terms of making women wearing gossamer saris which showed the body. Raj Kapoor carried such an idea further into Ram Tere Ganga Meli, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, So he did that.
But Rupika, how much is the mass appeal of Ravi Varma works compromised or damaged his reputation as a serious painter?
Because there is this lack of understanding, people who have only seen his oleographs, and that was what happened for decades. People were only conscious of Ravi Varma through his oleographs. Because the paintings were not really seen. They were perhaps there in Trivandrum. No one really went to the palace, to the museum in Mysore. Baroda came out much later. So where were you going to see the original works?
People just saw the oleographs, the calendars, the matchboxes.
Quite right.
Just called a calendar artist.
So he became the calendar artist. They never thought there was anything more to him. So that has really damaged his. And I think now the tilt is being balanced.
Well, Rupika, Raja Ravi Varma is influencing even contemporary artists in India today. We're sitting at the Art Life Gallery, where you've curated a show when high and low art meet. Contemporary artists of India have done their take on Raja Ravi Varma. What is the thinking behind this show?
Well, even now, what you term as contemporary artists, several of them have grown up hearing stories that Ravi Varma painted. So they are familiar either with the stories that he painted, or they are familiar with the images, the oleograph images that they would have either seen in their own homes or in the local pawn shop or the local some shop or the other. So these images are really all over the place even now.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do, Rupika. We're going to meet up with a couple of the contemporary artists who've done their take on Ravi Varma. We're going to look around this exhibition. It's going to be very exciting. But in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us on Art Talk.
Thank you. It was very good.
Hi, Sunaina. How are you? Kamath, good to meet you. Sunaina Anand is the director of Art Life Gallery here in Gurgaon. Manjunath Kamath is a leading contemporary artist. Let's look at Ravi Varma's oleograph over here, a very famous one. Damayanti, she's pining for her lover Nal, and the swan is there. The swan is taking love messages for her lover. And now, Sunaina, let's look at how Paresh Mehti has been inspired by that oleograph. You see this work of his called Admiration, signature style, geometric shapes, vivid colors. What's your take on this?
Here, Paresh's Damayanti is looking at herself in the mirror and is probably getting ready for her lover. And the looks in her eyes are also very dreamy. So somewhere you see the nostalgia of the old world charm in his work, yet in his bright, contemporary, angular works.
But Kamath, what is interesting over here is that Damayanti is pining for her lover, but the Damayanti of Paresh Mehti is a more self-absorbed woman.
Yeah. Well, that I think talks about today's women.
So another kind of like take is like she's questioning herself, who am I? So, so it's because
there are a lot of women doing that these days.
Interpretation is going on, like, and you can take that as you want. Like.
Kamath, let's look at your work over here. You put Damayanti in an old Delhi terrace. What are you doing to her?
See, when we talk about Ravi Varma, I always remember old Delhi. Somewhere like if you go to old Delhi, you still look at those like old Havelis and.
When there's a certain romanticism.
Yeah,
there.
Romanticism and it's old tiles.
Okay, so what are you doing with the Damayanti? Because she's standing over there and her lover seems to be looking the other way.
The main thing about my work is a humor, like wit, bringing wit into my work. So here, like I'm creating certain kind of images where viewers can think about it. Like they can generate many layers on it, like layers of stories. So that is the main thing about artists, like how they give a chance to think their own stories to viewers.
For me, it's like, you know, it's actually, for me, it's like creating the atmosphere of the old Delhi terrace. I've been to many of those, because my aunt used to stay there. And that the interesting part about the terrace used to be, I mean, the tiles and everything takes you to that old, you know, the old world charm. About the whole, you know, the very art deco kind of stuff. But also, the terraces used to be like common terrace. Used to be there are many people living below the terraces, these large terrace, and every day, everybody in the morning or in the evening would come up. So everybody would take their corner, not even looking at the other person, and be very intimate in their own corner. So what I see over here is that everybody is having a good time. The man is happy.
So everyone have their own space.
Their own space, and this is community living. So I think what Damayanti is doing is she's so involved in her and worried about the messages probably she's waiting to receive. She doesn't even know who's sitting over there. Maybe and the monkey is having his good time, and the peacock, which is almost camouflaged with the atmosphere in the back, you know, the sky. But the peacock is a beautiful symbolism of love. So you see peacock there and Damayanti here. I think the balance is fabulous.
This is definitely one of the standout works over here. Thank you very much, Kamath, for joining us. Sunaina, let's go check out some other works and join another artist as well.
Sure.
Okay,
sure,
come. Hi, Iranna. Why don't we go around the corner, have a look at another Raja Ravi Varma oleograph, Lord Hanuman. Sunaina, of course, you know, there's another scene from the Ramayana where Hanumanji opens his heart to Lord Ram and shows how he adores him in his art. But look at what artist Gopi Krishna has done.
Yes.
A self-portrait, and who's he opened his heart to?
He's opened his heart to Rajnikant. You know, he's the god of the South, you know, worshipped like a god of the South, the film icon.
He's just connected with how Ram and Hanuman's the relation, what today's the relation with the normal layman like Aam Aadmi and the film actors, you know, big stars.
And it shows how art can be humorous and fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Iranna, let's turn around the corner over here, show our viewers Raja Ravi Varma's oleograph of Shankar, Lord Shiva, and then right next to it, look at your take on it. Iranna, your work is called Marriage of Shiva. How were you inspired by Ravi Varma in this work?
The way he popularized the mythology, the way he's illustrated the whole mythology of the Indian mythology, you know. So that is, it was from the childhood you are hearing, it's like a poem, you know, it is like a baby spoon, you know, you keep on watching from the whole childhood. So even until today also, you look at the very different way, you know, how. So it is, inspiration is there. Yeah.
So your painting is not making direct references or indirect ones to Raja Ravi Varma works, but you're inspired by his painting, his documentation of our religious stories, and you're doing the same.
Yeah, exactly. It was particularly, you know, I just read from childhood, you know, it's a Shiva Purana. When Shiva comes to marry to Sati, you know, later on the Parvati, so her mother was got to faint, you know. That story always in my mind, you know, from childhood, you know, that he was ugly. Then he showed the actual the roop, you know, then everybody getting to know that, you know, he is the most handsome person in the world. I mean, he was like that, you know. So that was that mythology, I wanted to use that, you know.
And I love the colors, they're very striking, Sunaina.
No, fabulous. And also I was talking to Iranna about the work, and I asked him how many Nagas would be there in this work. So we were trying to see if we could count. I think there would be more than 300 Nagas in this, and they all are wearing garlands.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And expressions of each Naga, you know, the face of each Baba is so different.
No, in fact, the Raja Ravi Varma's, the special quality is expression.
Yes.
You must have noticed, you know, even in my painting
Even
also,
in that work
there is a
there,
very different, it's a big celebration.
You worked on individual expressions
individual
very well.
expressions.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking the face expressions, even actions, even the whole strength, you know. If you notice, the whole, the painting is celebrating, but Shiva is standing like a hero. Yes, this is my
Here
marriage.
I am.
Yes, I am, you know, that's the whole, the whole.
like any bridegroom feels, you know, like,
Here
I am, and rest are like,
this part.
I'm the hero.
I'm the
At least
hero.
for that one
You know,
day.
in fact, this part particularly I took from the Ravi Varma. Ravi Varma made that expressions always, you know.
All these paintings show the continuing, abiding influence of the great Raja Ravi Varma. Iranna, I loved your work. Thank you very much for joining
so
us.
much. Thanks,
Sunaina, this has been absolutely fascinating.
thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.